He played with a ferocious rhythmic style that he coupled with a brilliant harmonic knowledge. He was the combined element of Bill Evans and Wynton Kelly. Who is Victor Feldman? Here on Big on Bebop. He was born Victor Stanley Feldman on April 7, 1934 in London, England. His family was all musical. Feldman was mainly self-taught from listening to his brothers. His father founded the Feldman Swing Club in London in 1942 to showcase his talented sons. Feldman was hailed as a genius when he played a job on drums at age 7, made his recording debut at 8, took up the piano at 9. He studied at London College of Music. From 1941 to 1947, he played drums in a trio with his brothers. He was featured in the films King Arthur Was a Gentleman in 1942 and Theatre Royale in 1943. In 1944, he was featured at a concert with Glenn Miller's AAAF band as Kid Krupa. He also took a prominent role in the musical Piccadilly Hayride from 1946 to 1948. At 14, his drums teacher, Carlo Kramer, encouraged Feldman to play the vibraphone, which he did first in the Ralph Sharon Sextet and later in the Roy Fox Band. Feldman played with Vic Lewis and Ted Heath, with Ralph Sharon from late 1949 to 1951, including performances in Switzerland. There were further overseas trips with Ronnie Scott to Paris in 1952 and Harry Perry to India. He also played with Perry in the UK from October 1953 to January 1954. Also in 1954, he recorded with Jimmy Duchar and played again with Scott. He was working mainly as a pianist and vibraphonist. He was a notable percussionist, but it was as a pianist and a vibraphone player that he became best known. Before leaving for the U.S., Feldman recorded with Ronnie Scott's orchestra and quintet from 1954 to 1955. It was Scott who recommended that Feldman immigrate to the U.S., which he did in 1955. Once in the United States, his first steady work was with Woody Herman's Herd. He had frequent return trips to the UK over the following years. His 8-week visit in 1956 to 57 included studio recording sessions and club appearances. After Herman, he joined Buddy DeFranco for a short time. He settled in Los Angeles and in 1957 to 59 worked with the Lighthouse All-Stars. His band, which included the innovative bassist Scott LaFaro, his 1958 album The Arrival of Victor Feldman includes LaFaro and Stan Levy on drums. He studied arranging with Marty Paich in 1959. He recorded with many jazz artists, including Benny Goodman, George Shearing, and Cannonball Adderley, who he toured with from 1960 to 61. He accompanied Peggy Lee on trips to London and Monte Carlo in 1961, toured with Benny Goodman in 62 to Russia. Miles Davis heard him with Cannonball, and then he recorded with Davis on the 1963 album 7 Steps to Heaven, the title tune being his own composition. Miles Davis loved his playing so that he tried to persuade him to join his band, but Feldman declined, wanting to stay in Los Angeles with his family, which ultimately opened the door for Herbie Hancock. Feldman settled in Los Angeles permanently and then specialized in lucrative session work for the U.S. film and recording industry, with the exception of joining the Cannonball Adderley Quintet in 1960 to 61. He also branched out to work with a variety of musicians outside of jazz, recording with the artists such as Frank Zappa in 1967, Steely Dan and Joni Mitchell in the 1970s, Tom Waits and Joe Walsh in the 1980s, and playing alongside his sons in the Generation Band. It is Feldman's percussion work on Steely Dan's song Do It Again that gives the song its Latin groove. Feldman appears on all 7 Steely Dan albums released in the 1970s and 1980s, in the band's first incarnation. Feldman's vibraphone soloing is featured extensively on the Grammy Award-winning The Music from Peter Gunn. Victor Feldman died of a heart attack in 1987 at his home in Los Angeles at the age of 53, following an asthma attack. In 2009, he was inducted in the Musicians Hall of Fame Museum in Nashville. Victor Feldman was a highly versatile performer, particularly on piano and vibes, and was highly regarded by his contemporaries. Victor Feldman, another fantastic bebop musician.